She has been educating and inspiring adults and children to value and conserve Appalachia's biological diversity and rich cultural heritage to empower a sustainable future for the region. It's my great pleasure to welcome Lori.
Good morning. Thank you for this invitation to allow me to share my passion for place-based healing, or what I call the magic and medicine of place. Place in this particular instance is my home, Southern Appalachia. It's the place where my family has dwelled for 5 generations, the place I've always felt both compelled and privileged to advocate for through 25 years of very non-traditional teaching, learning, sharing, creating, speaking, writing, healing, and any other means seemingly useful in the effort to expand the experience and the expression of this very magnificent and special spot on the third rock from the sun. Today, I'd like to offer this little talk in honor of many beautiful humans, but today particularly to my beloved friend and herbal mentor, now deceased, Cherie Wagner, and my friend and teacher, Raymond Grace, both Washington Countyans, who are fierce and free rebel spirits and powerful healers. So let's begin by weaving together in very broad, thick strands a bit of regional history with the plant world, to illustrate that the way I approach herbalism or plant medicine isn't separate from the cultural or the spiritual. It is by definition and practice holism. Pre-settlement people relied on the plant and animal world for all aspects of life, and life was lived in the synchronous rhythms of Ma nature, mostly harmonious and in full alignment of the human body, mind, and spirit. Spirit being not only human, but including the acknowledged sentience of animals, plants, rocks, and all part of the great universal creative spirit. Post-settlement, a different worldview had taken charge of the land and humans, and the rigid separation between what the body requires, the mind or heart desires, and then how to obtain it, and what feeds the spirit were compartmentalized. And Ma nature, the great provider, became merely an object for human dominion. In Southern Appalachia, the reverence for plants as fellow beings whose gifts of food and medicine essential to life itself was reduced to their usefulness as commodities. The middleman, so to speak, was fed a robust diet of raw natural resources, which became currency, which could be used in turn to purchase those same resources in a more convenient form. The trees were raised and sent down rivers and on ships north for building the great industrial complex. Ginseng and other precious forest botanicals were raped en masse and hauled out of the hills and sold to peoples afar. Then when the machine figured out how to extract fossilized plants called coal out of the very mountains themselves, the scale of destruction of this place became an unprecedented, monstrous devouring of our very earthly bones that has yet to cease. And let us only touch on the catastrophic undoing of lives, families, and entire communities by the medical industrial complex that was supposed to bring ease to those folks whose bodies were broken in their effort to have the means to stay put in the hills. Light stuff, huh? So this theme of plants runs through the very heart of the story of Appalachia and its various human communities over time. Appalachia, you see, is among the most biologically diverse places on the entire planet, and in spite of all of our blind ignorance and our greedy mangling and ill-conceived notions that we can save her, it is she who sustains us. She, whom I believe still holds the magic and medicine to save us wayward humans in body, mind, and spirit. Intimately knowing where you are can lead you to who you are. The Southern folk herbalist tradition is a reflection of the story of both pre- and post-settlement. After all, regardless of how we view nature, we cannot deny our dependence upon her sustenance. Indigenous uses of native plants for food and medicine and the connection to them married with herbal knowledge of the plants brought across the Great Pond by European settlers, and the rich, necessity-imposed and acquired herbal knowledge of enslaved Africans and their descendants in America, very much like our old-time music, blended into a practice of healing that transcended their original continents and brewed up a place-based medicinal folk practice. Informed primarily by the belief that we are our own healers, that we are responsible for our own health or dis-ease, and that these capacities don't necessarily lie outside our own humble surroundings. The folk tradition is at heart a practice in self-empowerment, a modern way perhaps to say rugged individualism. It is the individual, the community, the place that holds the capacity to heal. And true to all of these cultural origins, the story is where so much of the power lies. We are creatures of the oratory tradition, after all. Stories have always carried the messages of a people's values through parable or myth. The power of words as the expression of thought and belief, as the very manifestation of energy. The story we tell ourselves about who we are, how we have suffered or excelled, absorbed criticisms and negative opinions, or have held healthy boundaries, these stories determine our fate more than any other factor, I believe. To reference the wolf parable, which wolf have we fed? From this tradition, and informed by my own experience, learning, and beliefs, I speak, write, and practice one of many forms of herbalism as a holistic healing modality. I speak of holism, plant spirit medicine, and big E energy as a journey of returning to our birthright of true well-care, wellness, and well-being. To a journey in the experience of big F, freedom, or in Raymond's words, or as Raymond says, freedom has no substitute, and energy always follows thought. In herbalism, we are taught that nutrition is the first medicine. In Southern folk herbalism, we also speak of eating from place because the body is made of the place in which it abides. To eat from that place is to align the body with the earth's energies and to strengthen it, just as eating and adapting our lifestyle to the rhythms of nature help to harmonize our entire being with nature. In this way, herbalism is itself a lifestyle, but one that, with the exception of the advanced skills of the practicing healer, is one that can belong to us all. I seek to normalize once again the experience of being outside, of knowing the names of our plants and being familiar with their gifts, the eating of wild foods from our fields and forests, and syncing with natural cycles of life. We breathe, the most fundamental biological requirement of life, because of the plant-enabled exchange of oxygen and CO2. So pause and think for that a minute. We exist because of this unseen alchemical miracle that we do not even question. It is, and so we are. And this is just a blip in the realm of possibility of alchemy. A deep dive into plant medicine, be it herbalism, the field of plant nootropics, including psilocybin, and the fascinating, somewhat new to Western thought concept of perceptual diversity can lead us to the realm where magic and medicine merge and become life-altering. So we can talk about our senses as doorways, what we see, taste, touch, smell, hear, and sense as they relate to plants. So we're all familiar with essential oils, aromatherapy, right? The scents, why do we use them? How do they change how we feel, our emotions? Where are they used? The spa, the church, the altar, the temple, a place of peace, a place of worship, any place where you want to use scent to bring us somewhere, the past or the present, or maybe just home. Humans have used aromatic plants for thousands of years to elicit recall or conjure a mood or even a particular brain frequency. So take a breath for a moment and ask what smells Conjure images from your childhood or some other keen memory. Where do you travel to in your mind because of that scent? How does the smell trigger some sort of emotional state within you? How does that smell become a memory that you craft as a story from your life? Our thoughts and emotional states create our physical state. Every cell in our bodies is listening to our thoughts. The number one killer of humans is stress. That's a road for another day. Would anybody like to share anything that came to mind? Did a scent come to you? Could you smell something when I said that?
Basil.
Basil.
My mom was a healer, so you took me to so many places with that request.
Basil. So stories, memories. I'd love to hear it. Bunny.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Lori. Your words are so beautiful. I brought back the smell of my mother's cooking, which is all of the Portuguese tradition in cooking meats was garlic and onion, and she marinated all of that, those ingredients before cooking, and it just filled the house, and it just brings back the security of family in my youth.
Anybody else? Thank you. In herbalism, we also speak of plant energetics, small e, as actions in the body. Is a plant cooling, warming, drying, moistening to the body's tissues and organs? How do we mindfully select a plant used in treatment of dis-ease so that these actions support healing rather than hasten deficiency? In herbalism, plants' roles are as food and medicine, and they overlap. We often distinguish between plants that are nutritive versus therapeutic, but even within these categories, there's much overlap. We employ leaves, flowers, stems, roots, bark, in all of these roles to some degree. One plant's gifts may only be available through one part, and the rest not particularly medicinally useful, or perhaps even poisonous. Another plant may offer medicinal benefits within every part of it, or the benefits among the parts of the plant may be different and used for different purposes. The phytochemistry is profound. We also look for patterns of dis-ease, which are symptomatically traced often back to story. We speak of classification of plants as aromatics, bitters, and tonics. Food, tea, tinctures, elixirs, electuaries, vinegars, glycerites, steams, capsules, salves, poultices, oxmels, and many others are ways we use the parts of plant to heal. We also have a saying that the only difference between a medicine and a poison is the dose. So I'm going to just mention a few very common plant friends that you're going to be familiar to you, that they're easy to identify, they're safe to eat, and they're used as both food and medicine. In other words, both nutritive and in high-dose therapeutic. And just give you some examples. I also, if you notice, brought some of my things up here. My little dog and pony tricks are right here. Please feel free to look at them, smell, touch, taste, ask questions, whatever. So some examples. Stinging nettle. And this one's my favorite common weed. It is probably the most nutritious plant you can put in your body from this place. It has more minerals and vitamins than any of the kale, spinach, greens kind of stuff. It's just profound. It's also considered a bitter and a blood purifier. And in the Southern folk tradition, folks would flagellate arthritic joints with the sting of the nettles to ease the pain. Chickweed, it's crazy high in plant protein and minerals, and is one of the most common weeds on the whole planet. And used as a poultice or a salve, it will draw out infection and heat. And it's available in this really extensive growing season of March through often December. I'm still gathering it. And it's one of the tastiest, friendliest little things you could possibly eat. Also, there's dandelion, cleavers, burdock, yellow dock, violet, plantain. All those pesky lawn and garden weeds that are so prevalent are all edible and are employed by herbalists to treat an entire array of ailments and imbalances in the system. And then in the Southern folk tradition, there's how we just use common kitchen food as medicine. My favorite being cabbage, which we can trace cabbage as a food across cultures, often fermented. So sauerkraut, for example, best friend to your gut. The juice of cabbage is a Southern folk remedy for H. pylori, and one of the most effective things you can do for that. Garlic. We all know how, and I'll just say, growing up here, we did not touch the garlic. But my generation, we love the garlic. So as a powerful antimicrobial agent, it strengthens the immune system, but we combine it with mullein flowers and treat ear infections with it. So that 1-2 punch. Onions, wonderful medicine. My grandfather would tell stories growing up of onion poultices across his chest, and that's how chest infections were treated in his home. He was one of 10, and they never saw a doctor till they were adults and well out of the house. So he had fascinating stories of how his mother would care for them. And so it's not part of the Southern folk tradition, but I wanted to talk a little bit about what I call the holy trinity of forest mushrooms. One, because you will find that herbalism has been growing immensely in popularity for a lot of different reasons. And we're also getting dialed into things that we just really never paid attention to, which is the fungal world in particular, and the role that mushrooms can play in healing. So I wanted to mention my 3 favorite because they're all here, they're all native, and I love to use them. So I have one down here, a reishi shelf mushroom. It's called the divine mushroom, and it's an adaptogenic wonder. It's a liver protectant, a regulator of blood pressure, blood sugar, cholesterol, strengthener of the respiratory and digestive systems, an inflammation reducer, and a cardioprotector. Chaga, which has been used for centuries in Asian cultures in particular, but we have here. It's been used to prevent tuberculosis, protect the heart, and as an anti-cancer remedy. It's antiviral, antibacterial, it's a blood sugar balancer, an immunomodulator, and an anti-tumor preventative. Turkey tail, the most well documented of all as an immune activator and a cancer aid. There have been more studies on the effectiveness of turkey tail for treating cancer than any other mushroom. So how I have kind of brought all of this together into, I guess you could call it a business. I have a business called Appalachian Teas and Botanicals. Our tagline is Plants, Place, Purpose. And I say the teas blend innovative ingredients from the heart of Appalachia and beyond. So tea, which is just water infused with plants, is one of the oldest and simplest forms of consuming the nutrients, minerals, and healing powers of the plants. My goal has always been to source as many of these plants as possible from the fields and forests of southern Appalachia. I believe that herbs can not only heal the individual body, but can support the work of our land stewards, those folks tending farms and harvesting in the woodlands, which can lead to the healing of our landscape, so ravaged by misuse and abuse. Herb Lab is the education arm of my business, and it aims to empower folks to become their own medicine person. I say these are an approach to heritage-inspired modern herbal recipes for health and wellness from the heart of Appalachia and beyond. The Wildlings is a weekly wild foray of adventure, art, exploration, and learning through play with a group of 4 to 10-year-olds. In other words, a day of the purest joy there is, and joy's the gateway to awakening. And wellness consultations. These are a one-on-one deep dive on the journey to healing, a rewrite of the story that led to dis-ease and imbalance to one of well-being. So collectively, the aim is to share, teach, and grow place-based herbal knowledge and connection. When we embrace our own inner healer, we begin to heal the collective. The so-called medicines of the allopathic medical complex have wreaked havoc and devastation on Appalachian communities, just as much as the extractive industries. How beautifully ironic if our plant medicines could help to heal those deep, dark human wounds. So healing is in thought, intention, plant intelligence, Gaia herself, sentience, and all of the big E energy. Every cell in our bodies is listening. Herbalism, in its greatest sense, then can offer a shift in perspective, a shift in awareness, a shift in alignment. And a revolution in how we move through the world can begin by simply standing barefoot in our own yard or a field, forest, and knowing the names of our non-human kin, feeling our energy flow with their energy, and the culmination of power, authentic power, power that heals, power that is both tender and fierce, power that is freely exchanged, and the power that we need now more than ever. Plant medicine is at the very core of speaking with life itself. But really the greater question is then, what is medicine? Food is medicine. Movement is medicine. Connection is medicine. Dance, play, noble work is medicine. Music is medicine. Laughter is medicine. Love is medicine. And wonder and joy are the doors to get us all there. I'd like to close with a selection from the book Say Lu, Seeking the Corn Mother's Wisdom by Mary Lou Awiakta, which weaves the Cherokee story of the Corn Mother, her people, and the earth together in beauty. From the spirit, the people learn survival wisdoms, common sense ways of living in harmony with their environment and each other. To reverence the spirit and convey the wisdoms, each tribe, according to its custom, creates ceremonies, rituals, songs, art, and stories. Each story is itself a seed where the spirit of the Corn Mother is concentrated. Planted in a child's mind, the story matures along with the child, nourishing her or him to grow in wisdom and stature. Story and life interweave. Like the grain, the stories vary, but the spirit is the same. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
So informative and inspiring.
Thanks.